There you go.
All right, good. So this one, you can see the line judge's position on the outside, on the left side of the play, and it's important to do that because the most common error happens between zones 1 and 2 where they're dragging that foot over the big line. So you have to make sure that you watch the balloon go through 4 different legs. So it's got to go through each player. They don't all have to touch it, but it has to go through each person's leg. Following the balloon down each 3 zones, so the clubber in zone 3 cannot come in front of that white line until they have possession of the balloon. And then the player in zone 1 cannot step behind that red line until the balloon is passed through their legs. It doesn't have to be out of their possession, it just has to be through their legs. The balloon has to pass before their feet pass, similar to the zone 3 expectation. And so in this event, we're actually going to rotate every single heat. So we typically do 2 or 3 heats depending on the size of the club and how many clubbers there are. And so instead of rotating each game or each event, in this one we'll rotate each heat because this game happens fast and there's a lot of different things to look at, and so to make sure that all of the teams have different judges watching different events and not the same one. Because some of them have gone through this game a lot and could judge with their eyes closed. Others, this will be their first time, and we want to make sure that because there's so many things that we have to keep an eye on, that we have the most even experience we have for our team. So that's all of the TNT games. I'm going to quickly run through the Sparks. I know I've got about 6 minutes, and so I'll go through this pretty quick. Sparks is a lot less competitive, a little bit easier from a line judge standpoint. So this is really just for fun. It's not a day of high pressure competition. Sparks age kids usually are not ready for the keen rivalry of the games meet. Don't expect them to compete as fervently as older boys and girls. Sparkies play games for fun of playing them. Winning can be a gratifying result of their team effort. Sparks Forever should also be a ministry to parents, an opportunity to present clearly to the gospel. So for those of you who have done this before, they're just happy to be there and they're having fun. They're paying more attention to their friends next to them than what's going on in the game. And so this is really just a fun opportunity for us to be able to provide for our Sparkies, but also provide a little bit of competitiveness for the coaches and some of the older kids, typically the second graders, start to really get into to kind of what it is. So as far as game day, it's going to be the same exact thing that we had before. So our judges meeting will be about 40 minutes prior on the circle, 20 minutes prior, making sure the teams are there, making sure they're in uniform if they have knee pads and shoes. And then 15 minutes prior, we'll do the coaches meeting, clarification of rules and questions. So very similar to the TNT, we'll do the flag ceremony, national anthem. We're going to do the Sparks yell and the Sparks key verse. We'll have the competition. We'll do a message, provide an offering. We'll do the presentation of awards, and then we'll dismiss with prayer. So very similar setup to both TNT and Trek and Journey. Make sure that you guys know these as line judges, similar to 2 Timothy 2:15. We all should know John 3:16. I don't want to take that for granted, but usually most of us know that. And then the Sparky yell. So who are we, who for, and what to do, and making sure that you guys know that and helping out with that, which will be fun. So your responsibility as a line judge is really to help coaches maintain order on the line. There's a lot of little kids. Sometimes it's hard to corral them. As line judges, you can help support them. All right, this is the same as TNT, so I'm not going to really kind of go through this a whole lot, but again, make sure you're helping the circle director keep things moving. Raise your hand if you have questions. We usually don't have false starts with Sparkies. If we do, it's not usually a big deal with that, but making sure that you kind of call through all of that. Sparky crawl, this is my most favorite event for the Sparks. They all crawl across and then crawl back. So your job as a line judge is to just make sure that everybody's starting behind the line, and then once they crawl all the way across, you're making sure that the last player crosses the plane before the player comes in. 9 times out of 10, multiple kids run in from the same team. As much as churches practice this, it gets exciting, and maybe they did do a good job during their trainings or didn't have a lot of practices, and multiple kids run in for the middle. We try to do our best as circle directors and line judges to, kind of see what would have happened if only one ran in. So it's typically the first kid to get there, but keep an eye on that as line judges. Again, sometimes you have a team that's really quick, and then 2 people will go in and they'll both get the pin and the beanbag, the same team. So we're not going to disqualify them for that. We just got to make sure we know who the second player team is. I've never disqualified anyone for sparks. It could happen, but typically in situations like that, or if they're running and knock over a pin, we kind of just set it back up for them. Now obviously when we get to some of the other games, like Sparky Safari, if they don't have all the animals or they didn't do the same amount of laps, we will have to disqualify them at that point. But something like, you know, a couple kids running in or knocking over a pin, things like that, we're just going to continue to move on with the games for that. So Sparky Safari, what I talked about, Dave is going to grab me the little animal so I can hold it up. So these are the ones that we're going to use. They're really little, they're really easy, they fit in those black buckets really nicely. Hold it up to this camera too. And so this is what we're going to use. We'll go through that with the coaches also, but you know, really easy even for little kindergartner hands. These things are easily holdable, even for the player to have all 4 of them. Even a little kindergartner, like I said, will be easy to be able to hold these. So, you know, it's a relay race, and so they're going to go around, and the last player has all of them, and then they go and they put them in the bucket. So it's going to be really easy to be able to do that. Last player places them all in, and then goes for the pin or the beanbag. So pretty easy and simple for the clubbers to be able to do. Then we have balloon battle. So this is where the coaches are going to help support. The coaches, one coach from each team is actually going to hold the rope. As line judges, you guys aren't responsible for that. You're going to position yourself. I don't see the little, there he is. You're just going to stand in the back of the circle, and you're going to count how many times the balloon touches the ground in your triangle or your quadrant. And so a lot of times I think the teams think that the playing field ends at the circle. It actually goes all the way back to the end of the triangle. So even if the balloon is all the way in the back, and that's where as a line judge you can pick up the balloon and run it back up into the center to try to get the balloon back in play. But you're just watching for how many times the balloon is hit, and then based on that number throughout each event, we'll determine first through 4th place. Sparky in and out, beanbag in and out, really simple. It goes in the bucket and then comes out of the bucket. So you're just watching to make sure that for the most part the team doesn't leave early, that the beanbag exchanges hands, things like that's really important. So same thing with TNT, beanbag relay, and then bonanza after the second round. As a line judge, you're kind of watching to make sure everything is good to go. Then we have rabbit hunt. So we're using these big sponges. So again, we're going to tell the coaches, headshots count. I mean, second graders aren't very powerful in getting hit in the head with this, even from an adult throwing at 80 miles an hour. This thing slows down in midair pretty quick. If you touch the ball at all in the middle, the clubber's out. So a lot of times it'll be sitting there and we'll see a Sparky kick it. And if that's the case, then they're still out because they touched the ball, and we'll go through that with the coaches before. But your job is to help make sure that the player throwing the ball stays outside the circle. That's the most common thing that we see. So if they've stepped over the white line, their throw doesn't count. And so a clubber may, once they get hit, start to run out. You can say, hey, no, you're still in. That clubber crossed the line when they threw it. So just making sure that you have that ready to go for rabbit hunt. Sparky train. This one's a lot of fun. They line up on the pool noodle, 5 of them. As a line judge, you're running around with them. So very interactive game. Trust me, even the fastest Sparky teams, you should be able to keep up because you're inside the circle. You're running a lot less distance than they are. Your job as a line judge in this one is to just make sure that they stop if somebody lets go. So all 5 players have to have control of the noodle. If for some reason they don't, you stop them, the train reconnects, and then they keep going around the circle. The last player, the one at the end, is the one that goes in for the pin and the beanbag. This is very similar to Sparky Crawl. Sometimes the clubbers don't understand, and it's the first player, or they bring the whole train around into the center of the circle. Just making sure that you kind of help with that aspect as a line judge will be important. Then we have balloon pop. This is our last one that we have. So in this diagram, it shows the clubbers kind of spaced out all the way to the corner. Typically, they start at the circle and work their way in. So the balloon starts on the outside and then comes in towards the interior square, their triangle. And then the last player pops it. So if we have 5 or 10, this game goes really quick. Unlike balloon relay, it just has to go through everybody's legs. Not everybody has to touch it. So a lot of times, clubs that have done this for quite a while usually have like players 1, 4, 7, and 10 touch it, and then they kind of squish everybody up. So The only thing is the last player has to start on their little hash mark, which is close to kind of where the balloon relay starts for the bigger kids. And then they can be spread out as far as all the way to the end of the triangle or as close down as they can be. But we started on the outside, the balloon goes towards the end, and then the clubber pops it. They just have to really be in their triangle when they pop it. The big triangle, so kind of taking a step back towards the center. A lot of times the balloon will squirt out and fly all over. Usually by that point another team has already won, but trying to keep them in their triangle will be important just so we don't have people backing into each other, clonking heads, things like that is important. And you're kind of following it into the middle. So then once you're done, once we're done with that, again, go to the awards table, help the circle director, hand out patches, and then it says turn in your shirt, but we're going to have a Trek and Journey after this, and so you hang on to your shirt until after that. And then we have, just make sure for Sparkies you know the rule book, contact if you have any questions. So, and that's all we got. Do we have any questions from anybody else?
Please, no math.
No math?
No math.
No math. No math questions. All right.
Great job, Jonathan.
Thank you.
All right. Before we start the next meeting, I want to see if I can